Have you ever looked at your life and wondered, this isn't how the story was supposed to go? You had dreams, plans, expectations, but now you're facing confusion, pain, or silence from God. If that's where you are, you're not alone. And more importantly, you're not forgotten. In today's message from Throned Hope, we're going to talk about what it truly means to let God write your story. Not the version where everything goes right, but the version where even the broken pieces become part of something beautiful. If you've been waiting, doubting, or feeling stuck, this message is for you. Because the author of your life has not put down his pen. Let's dive in and discover what happens when God writes the story. Have you ever felt like your life was spinning out of control? Like no matter how hard you tried, things just didn't go according to plan? You mapped out your dreams, your timeline, your next steps, and yet, nothing turned out the way you hoped. If you've been there, you're not alone. In fact, many of the greatest stories in the Bible started in chaos, confusion, and silence. But there is one truth that stands unshaken across all generations. When God writes your story, the ending is always better than what you could ever imagine. Let's talk about Joseph. Not the Joseph who was the earthly father of Jesus, but Joseph, son of Jacob. Joseph had dreams, literal dreams. He saw himself in positions of leadership, honored and respected. And maybe like us, he believed that dream would unfold in a straight line. But his story took a dramatic detour. Betrayed by his brothers, thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, falsely accused and imprisoned, Joseph's life looked nothing like a blessing. It looked like abandonment, like divine silence. But God was writing something far greater. You see, God doesn't just author happy beginnings. He's the God of redemptive endings. He allows the middle to stretch us, grow us, prepare us. If Joseph hadn't been a slave, he wouldn't have ended up in Potiphar's house. If he hadn't been falsely accused, he wouldn't have ended up in prison. And if he hadn't interpreted the dreams of the prisoners, he wouldn't have been brought before Pharaoh. And if he hadn't stood before Pharaoh, he would never have become second in command over all of Egypt. Joseph's life wasn't about fast answers. It was about divine timing. We often wrestle with God's timeline. We live in a world of instant gratification, instant messages, express delivery, drive-through blessings. But God is not in a hurry. He's not on our clock. His pace is perfect, and his delay is never his denial. Sometimes the silence is a setup. Sometimes what feels like the end is only the pause before the next chapter begins. Think of Moses. He had a calling on his life from birth. Protected by God, drawn out of the Nile, raised in Pharaoh's palace. But after one impulsive decision, he fled into the desert, and he stayed there for 40 years. That's not 4 months. That's 4 decades of obscurity, 4 decades of waiting, questioning, feeling forgotten. But in that wilderness, God was shaping a deliverer. Sometimes, God isolates us before he elevates us. Are you in a waiting season? Are you wondering if your prayers have hit the ceiling? I want to remind you today that even in the silence, God is speaking. Even in the stillness, God is working. The author of your life never stops writing. He knows how to take broken pieces and build beautiful stories. But here's the thing. When God writes the story, he doesn't skip the hard chapters. He includes the battles, the storms, the nights of tears. Why? Because he's not just interested in happy endings. He's interested in holy hearts. He's refining us, teaching us to trust, drawing us closer to himself. Sometimes God will allow the dream to die so he can raise it in his way and his timing. Let's talk about Lazarus. Jesus loved Lazarus. Yet when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed where he was. He didn't rush. He didn't heal from a distance. He waited until Lazarus had died. That seems almost cruel, until you realize that Jesus didn't come sick man. He came to resurrect a dead one. The miracle was greater because the situation looked hopeless. Your situation may look dead right now. The relationship may seem over. The opportunity may seem gone. The door may seem permanently closed. But what looks like death to you is a setup for resurrection to God. He doesn't always do what we expect, but he always does what is best. God specializes in writing plot twists. He turns slaves into rulers, shepherds into kings, fishermen into apostles, persecutors into preachers. Let's not forget Peter, bold, fiery, full of passion, the disciple who swore he'd never deny Jesus.
And yet, he did. 3 times. At the moment Jesus needed him most. That could have been the end of Peter's story. But Jesus isn't like us. He doesn't cancel people when they fall. He restores them. He finds Peter after the resurrection, not with a rebuke, but with a question. Do you love me? And 3 times, one for each denial, Jesus allows Peter to affirm his love. Then he says, feed my sheep. In other words, I'm not done with you. No matter how far you've fallen, no matter how many times you've messed up, Jesus is not done with you. His grace rewrites shame. His mercy gives second chances. His blood speaks a better word over your life. Maybe you're listening to this and thinking, but I've made too many mistakes. I've taken too many wrong turns. Let me tell you something. You are not powerful enough to ruin God's plan for your life. He already knew every choice you'd make, every weakness you'd wrestle with, and still, he called you. Still, he chose you. Still, he died for you. His love isn't fragile. His purpose isn't canceled by your failures. Let's look at Paul. Before he became the apostle who wrote much of the New Testament, he was Saul, a man who persecuted Christians, who stood by as Stephen was stoned, who hunted down believers. Yet God saw past all of that. On the road to Damascus, God met him with light, grace, and a new name. That's what Jesus does. He meets us in our mess, blinds us to our past, and opens our eyes to his calling. You might be waiting for a new beginning, but God is waiting for your surrender. The pen of your life belongs in his hands. The moment you stop trying to control the plot is the moment the true story begins. Trusting God doesn't mean every chapter will be easy. It means believing that even the tears are not wasted, that even the trials are part of the tapestry, that nothing is random when it's in his hands. Romans 8:28 says, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." Not some things, all things. That includes the things we don't understand, the things we wish never happened, the things we prayed would turn out differently. He weaves them all into good. Faith doesn't mean we never doubt. It means we choose to trust even when we don't see. It means we believe that God is good, not just when life is good, but even when it hurts. If you've been trying to write your own story, maybe it's time to lay the pen down. Maybe it's time to say, Lord, I trust you, even when I don't understand, even when the answers don't come, even when the way forward looks dark. God is a better writer than we are. He sees the whole picture. He knows the ending, and he promises that those who trust in him will not be put to shame. So keep walking, keep praying, keep waiting, because the story isn't over. The author is still at work. And when God writes the story, even the broken chapters become beautiful. You are not forgotten. You are not too far gone. You are not disqualified. You are a page in the greatest story ever told, a story of grace, redemption, love, and everlasting life. Let him write it. If today's message spoke to your heart, I want you to remember this. God doesn't just redeem our past, he redefines our future. Your delays, your detours, even your disappointments, they're not wasted.
They're being woven into a masterpiece, written by the hands of a faithful God. So no matter what chapter you're in right now, hold on. Keep trusting. Keep walking. Because when God writes the story, it's never over until redemption has the final word. If this encouraged you, consider sharing it with someone who needs hope today. Subscribe to Throned Hope for more messages like this, and leave a comment below. How has God been writing your story? Thank you for watching, and remember, the best stories are written by the one who sees the end from the beginning. Stay strong, stay faithful, and let God keep the pen. God bless you.